What is up, guys? My name is Matt and this is my review of LEGO's beautiful new Droideka. This set includes 583 pieces and will cost you $65 if you buy it here in the US. Let's see if it's worth those $65. The Droideka was first seen in The Phantom Menace and shows up throughout the prequel and the Clone Wars animated series. Because this set celebrates the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, the box art has the black background of 18+ sets combined with the light blue-gray LEGO stripe thing on the bottom. I really like the way this looks, and it makes it really clear the distinction between play sets and display sets. And this Droideka is definitely a display set, but it's a really cool display set with some super cool functionality that lets it do awesome things like roll up into a ball. Like most of the recent character builds, this set comes with a nice looking plaque and a minifig. Well, not exactly a minifig, but like a minifig scale version of a Droideka. LEGO has tried to create a good looking Droideka minifig over the years, and they all have their pros and cons. I think the version we get here looks decent, although the binocular pieces we see on the ends of the guns are totally unnecessary, as the arms are plenty long enough without them. LEGO uses the blade element for the legs here, which looks fine, but maybe not quite as successful as the sharper feet from earlier versions. But I will say that brown piece that wraps all the way around from the backside over to the top of the head looks pretty nice. The rest of that plaque stand also looks pretty good, with a printed brick for the 25th anniversary and a great looking plate displaying background information on the Droideka. Those plates are now printed instead of being the stickers that we used to get, so that's great to see. Now let's move on to the reason you're all here, this beautiful new Droideka. He stands around 8 inches tall or 21 centimeters, which is a little bit smaller than I was expecting actually. I thought he would be a little bit bigger just looking at the box. I don't know, for some reason, looking at photos and looking at the box, I just imagine he'd be like an inch or two taller, but he completely makes up for his height by being really detailed and actually being a pretty fun build. The only other buildable character I have is the recent R2-D2, and I like that set a lot, but the Droideka might beat him out for the most impressive character build, and is definitely 1,000 times better than a certain other cursed character that I'm not going to mention. Fortunately, that doesn't impact this guy though, who looks awesome. The legs are in a fixed position because of the angled pieces used here, but by giving up on posability, you're gaining in stability. His legs look great and are the right combination of spider and crab. The underside of this lower section really should be round instead of being flat, but you'll see why they did this in a few minutes when we roll him up. The Droideka's arms are also his guns, just like me. And they look pretty awesome here, with the ability to move back and forth as he fires with his 2 twin blaster cannons. That is super cool, I love it. That articulation could have been left out, and this would have still been a great set. So I'm really glad the designer went out of the way to include that little bit of extra functionality. That extra movement just makes the set feel way more dynamic. The pistons on each arm are just for show, of course, but they look really good. The whip pieces used here in black indicate wiring, and all these little pieces combine to create a really detailed looking droid that looks great on display. The bottom section of the spine uses this relatively new textured brick that looks great and gives our Droideka a little 3-pack. The fins on the side are supposed to have holes, and these definitely do not have holes, although most of the stickers used in this set are meant to indicate where these parts should have been perforated, like on these 2 side fins. I don't blame LEGO for not making custom parts with holes just for this character, because that would have been ridiculous. And because he already looks great. But I also don't think the stickers add very much to this set, and if I were building this just for myself and not for review, I probably just would have left them off. The head of the droid is maybe the best part. The shape of the head looks absolutely perfect with these 3 sensors made by inserting a lipstick element that I didn't even know existed into this tube. The primary sensor in the middle is on an angled arm that gives this droid the perfect look, and it's hard to imagine how this could ever be improved on. You do see some Technic elements when looking at the model, especially around the neck and shoulder area, but there are no red or blue pieces poking out, thankfully, and I think it actually works pretty well with the overall look of the Droideka. That protective spine around the head and wrapping around the back also looks fantastic and appropriately wide. The bottom section ends in these 5 separate fingers, just like the droids from the movie, and it really makes the set feel well designed and as accurate as they could possibly make it. There are a few stickers across one section on the back that add a little bit of detail, but don't feel nearly as necessary as the stickers do on something like R2-D2. The way these side fins attach to the lower back looks really good, and the detail indicated with these half hinges or whatever they are looks surprisingly accurate. If you're into the Droideka, you need to know that LEGO did absolutely everything they could to make this little guy as compelling and as detailed as they possibly could at this scale. Now that we've seen our little assassin in his upright position, let's take a look and see how he looks in his rolling form. Fortunately, LEGO has included instructions on how to do this, and they're pretty easy to follow. Step 1 is to flip the pistons on each arm forward. Next, fold each arm upward and inside a little bit before opening up the side fins so they're around 180 degrees, or in line with each other. Rotate the head down a couple of notches, and then rotate the back forward that same amount. Lastly, pull out the 3 legs and replace them rotated around 180 degrees so that they point upward instead of down. FYI, I think you're best off by pulling on that upper ball joint when you're doing this, just to make sure that you're not pulling off any parts that you don't want to. And while I might like it a lot more in the attack position, I think it's super cool that the designer included the ability to put this up in its rolling form. It may not be quite as fun as set number 8002 from all the way back in the year 2000. That set, when you rolled it on the floor, it sprang out and jumped out into its attack position, but that function only worked like maybe a third of the time at best, and it relied on these rubber bands that I'm sure have mostly all dried up and been thrown in the trash by now. Plus, I'm sorry, but that set was ugly. This new one is definitely a looker though, and if you want to display them rolled up into a ball, then that's exactly why they decided to leave that bottom area flat instead of rounding it off. And if you're curious, it's definitely strong enough to be rolled across the table or across the floor without pieces flying off left and right, which is more than I can say about the old AT-AT back there. I really like this set. The build was pretty fun to do, it looks great on display, and includes a few added functions that make this Droideka feel really dynamic and way more interesting than most display sets. The plaque looks nice if that kind of thing is important to you, and that minifig scale droid feels like a solid effort even though it's not perfect on its own. Of course, if you can find the set on sale at some point, then I definitely think you should pick it up. It seems like an obvious choice in that case. But if you're only able to get it at full retail price, then I would not feel at all guilty about it. That's what I did, and I like this set a lot. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, otherwise I will see you guys next time. Later, nerds!